Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the percent of change part of your Unit 4 test. Number 1, a food company reduced the amount of salt in one of their food products from 700 milligrams to 630 milligrams. What is the percent decrease in the amount of salt in this food product? Well, the first thing I want to take a look at is I want to take a look at my two numbers that we're talking about here. And we're talking about the amount of salt. Well, it looks like we went from 700 to 630. So when I create my proportion, the one thing that I like to do in the denominator is I like to take the highest number of the two and subtract the smallest. Then in my denominator, I want to go ahead and I want to put the original number that we had. Well, it looks like we went from 700 to 630. So my original number here would be 700. And it's asking us to find the percent decrease, so we're going to put x in the percent over 100. Now, before I go ahead and before I multiply and divide, I have to take 700 minus 360. And when I do that, I get 70. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to multiply 70 and 100, which gives me 7,000, some big numbers, and that's going to equal 700 times x, which leaves me with 700x. I'd like to say that this is everybody's favorite step by dividing the number that's in front of x, which is our coefficient, and as soon as I pop that into my calculator, I get 10, which is answer choice A. Number 2, Walter scored a 1,285 on a national test in January. He decided to take the test again in March and scored a 1,230. What is the approximate decrease in Walter's scores? So again, the first thing I want to take a look for is I want to take a look for my two numbers. I have 1,285, 1,230. So when I create my proportion, guys, remember, let's take the highest number and subtract the smallest number from that. And my denominator is always going to be what I originally start with. And here we're talking about months. So we got to know something about months here. It says he first took it in January, and he decided to take it again in March. Well, guys, which month comes first? You got it, January. So I am going to say, in my denominator, 1,285. It also does say, it talks about you finding the percent decrease, so we're going to do x over 100. Again, just like before I go ahead and multiply and divide, I want to take this denominator, it's the numerator, and I want to subtract that. Well, once I subtract that, I get 55. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to multiply 55 times 100. I get 5,500, and then I'm going to multiply 1,285 times x, which just leaves me with 1,285x. I'm going to divide both sides by my coefficient, which is the number in front of the missing variable. And when I do that, I get something like 0.42 blah, 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 but it does say the approximate, all right, and approximate means you got to get as close as possible. Well, the closest number here possible to 4.2 is answer choice A, 4%. Number 3, a video game store increased their sales from 450 games in May to 500 games in June. What was the percent of increase in sales of games from May to June, rounded to the nearest percent? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to identify my two numbers that I want to subtract. So that's 450 and 500. Well, which one's highest? Well, we're going to start with 500 and we're going to subtract 450. Again, the denominator is always the original number. So again, just like with number 2, we're talking about months here. Looks like I have May and June. Well, which month comes first? It is May, so I'm going to put 450 in the denominator. It does talk about a percent here, so we got to put x in for the percent, and that is over 100. But before I multiply and divide, I have to subtract. And I just got rid of my fraction bar. There we go. So 500 minus 450 leaves me with 50. I'm going to multiply 50 times 100, which gives me 5,000. 450 times x is 450x. Divide both sides by the coefficient so you can get x by itself, and you are going to be left with 11%. Number 4, the stock price of a company was $28. The stock price fell to 60 cents. Which is the closest to the percent decrease in this stock price? Well, let me take a look at my two numbers. It looks like I have $28 and I have 60 cents. So, which one's higher? 28. So 28 minus my other number, which was 60 cents. And we want to take the original number. So it says that it was 28 and it fell 2. So we know that 28 is the original. So we're going to pop that into the denominator. And it does ask us for the percent decrease. So we're going to find the percent and we're going to put that right on over 100. Before we multiply and divide, I am going to take my numerator up here. I'm going to do exactly what it says to do. 28 minus 0.60, which leaves me with 2740. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply that. That leaves me with 2,740. And then I'm going to multiply 28 times x. I'm going to get 28x. I like to say this is everybody's favorite step. Divide by the coefficient, and when you divide, you are left with 98%. All right, this was a monster question. It says, number 5, at the end of December, the cookie shop had a profit of $15,000. At the end of January, their profit had decreased by 20%. Select the graph that represents the cookies shop's profit at the end of January. So for me, I think the easiest thing to do here is to really look at all the graphs and talk about them. Make an observation about them. So it does say that in December, it had a profit of 15,000. So I know that the blue in every single graph is going to be at 15,000. The January, which is the red, that tells you where it went to. So if I'm taking a look at answer choice A, it looks like that is at $12,000. So they fell from $15,000 to $12,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do this problem backwards. Because I know that they want to answer a percentage of 20%, I'm going to go do this backwards here. So I know that I went from 15,000 to 12,000. So just like before, I'm going to kind of count those as my two numbers. Where I was highlighting those in yellow earlier, that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to do, and I'm going to run out of room, so bear with me here. My highest number is 15,000, and I'm going to subtract that 12,000. Now, if we take a look at the graphs, where did we start? We started in December. So we're going to say that our denominator was 15,000. Now, even though it does give us the percentage of 20%, I'm doing this backwards. So I actually want to put an X here because what I want to do is I want to do the work because I want to check to see will it give me 20%? If I plug in 12,000 as the new profit in January, does that give me a decrease of 20%? So I'm going to go ahead and just like before, I'm going to take that numerator, 15,000 minus 12,000, and I am going to replace that with 3,000. So that's a matter of just plugging that into your calculator. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to multiply 3,000 times 100. And again, I apologize. I'm not a lot of room here. So that gives me 300,000. It's a lot of money, a lot of zeros. And I'm going to multiply 15,000 times X. And I'm going to go ahead. And you guys are awesome at this. I'm going to divide by 15,000, which is our coefficient. And guess what? When you plug 300,000 divided by 15,000 into your calculator, guys, you actually get that X equals 20. Well, guess what that meant? That was 20%. that matches what they had here. I am left with answer choice A. Number 6, the selling price of a home was dropped from $200,000 to $1,900,000. By what percent did the price drop? So, well, notice this is not multiple choice. So this is a short answer question. So again, I'm going to identify, I'm going to look at, I'm going to highlight, however you want to say it, my two numbers. Ooh, it looks like we got a lot of zeros going on here. So I'm going to take my highest number, which was 200,000, and I'm going to throw commas in there so I can make sure I can multitask here, talk and write the right amount of zeros in there. And my denominator is the original price. Well, it says it dropped from, so I know that $200,000 was originally where the price of the home started at. And it does say by what percent, so we know we have to look for that percent. You guys are awesome. You got this. I'm going to subtract this. And 200,000 minus that gives me $10,000. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to cross multiply, and I am going to be left with a lot of zeros. So that looks like 1 million, and I'm going to multiply that, so that's 200,000x. It's too many zeros to again write, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pop 1 million divided by 200,000 into my calculator, and when I do that, I get a nice 5%. All right, number 7. This is definitely a different question, but you guys are good at this. You got this. It says the table below gives the price of milk for various years. During which 10-year period did milk have the greatest percent of increase? So there is a lot of work involved in this one, but you guys are awesome. You've got this. So it says we want to find where the greatest percent was. So let's take a look. Answer choice A says the greatest percent went from 1970 to 1980 in the price. So let's go ahead. Let's create our proportion. I have $1.25 and $1.60. The largest number is $1.60, and we're going to subtract the smaller one. But if we're taking a look at years here, did 1970 come first or did 1980 come first? Well, obviously 1970 came first, so I'm going to pop that under the numerator, and we're trying to find the greatest percent, so I'm going to call that x over 100. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get rid of that because I'm going to put that into my calculator. I'm going to subtract that, and I get 35 cents. I'm going to go ahead, multiply. You're going to multiply that. You're going to divide, and I get about 28%. But now what I need to do is I need to look at the answer choice B, which says 1980 to 1990. So I have to create another proportion. It looks like in 1990 it was $2.15, and in 1980 it was $1.60. So the largest of my two numbers is $2.15, and you're going to subtract the smallest. Well, 1990 was the new because 1980 is where we started. So we're going to put $1.60 there. And it does say to find the percent, so we're going to go ahead and do that. You guys know this. You got this. You rock at this. We're going to subtract that, and it looks like I get 55 cents. Multiply each of them, divide by $1.60, and it looks like you are left with about 34%. Now, let's go back to the question. The question says, during which 10-year period did milk have the greatest percent of increase? Well, just by that, I know I can eliminate answer choice A. Let's take a look at answer choice C. I'm going to quickly go through this because I'm running out of time. It says from 1990 to 2000, so that leaves me with $2.78 minus $2.15. The original was $2.15. That's x over 100. Multiply, divide. I am left with about 29%, which again, I can go ahead and eliminate because 34 is greater. Now, due to time, I am going to tell you that as soon as you do answer choice D, just like you have for the last 6 questions, you're going to get about 29 cents. 34 is great.